Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Collegiate Athletics Advocate. My name is Will, and today we're going to continue our discussion on conference realignment. I know it's been a while since I've posted, so I apologize for taking so long. Work has been a lot recently, so finding the time and energy to write and produce episodes has been difficult. Enough of the excuses, though. Whether you've seen all of my videos or this is your first time, I appreciate you being here. Up until now, we've really only talked about the Pac, but it's now time to talk about the Mountain West. After all, the Mountain West is the next most changing conference behind the Pac-12 as a result of the Pac's backfilling efforts. Additionally, with Texas State having semi-recently been officially added to the conference as the 8th football-playing and full sports member, the chain reaction of conference realignment throughout the G5 and FCS is already well in motion, Louisiana Tech to the Sun Belt being a perfect example. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. When the Pac went after the Mountain West members back in the fall, they took what I've already discussed as being the 4, and then subsequently the 5th, best options, primarily in the realms of media value, athletic investment, and performance and revenue-generating sports. The Mountain West was left with 6 full members: the United States Air Force Academy, the University of Nevada, Reno, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the University of New Mexico, San Jose State University, and the University of Wyoming. They fairly quickly elevated the University of Hawaii, Manoa, who was an affiliate member of the Mountain West for football and had all of their other sports in the Big West, to a full all-sports membership. They then added the University of Texas El Paso from Conference USA in all sports. This brought them to the 8 full members they needed to stay a conference in the eyes of the NCAA. After that, they added Grand Canyon University from the Western Athletic Conference, and then the University of California, Davis from the Big West Conference as non-football members. This puts them in a good spot going forward as a conference, as they have enough football members to continue on as a full FBS conference. However, as the landscape of college football continues to evolve, especially in the group of 5, it's important for us to examine how they might cope with that. I believe there are a few really solid picks that could elevate the level of the conference and provide a more exciting, complete product. The first is New Mexico State University from Conference USA. This pick makes sense to me for so many reasons. Firstly, they're the only FBS school in the West that isn't going to be in a conference, with a few other schools at least in their time zone, let alone geographic area. If nothing less, they deserve to be in a home where their closest conference opponent isn't in East Texas. But in more practical terms, adding New Mexico State would provide insurance for the conference in case one of their members decided to jump ship to another conference, so that they'd still have the 8 full members required to maintain a valid FBS football conference in the eyes of the NCAA. As much as fans of the Mountain West would likely rather not admit it, that is a very real threat. Whether it be UNLV going to the Big 12, or even the Pac-12, depending on how events unfold in litigation in the next couple of months, or Air Force taking their football program and putting it in the American, which could literally happen tomorrow if Trump, aka the current commander-in-chief, decided he wanted the 3 service academies playing football against each other in the same conference. Also, it's called the American, so it seems like a branding thing. The arguments against the Aggies of New Mexico State are that they have relatively low athletics funding, a poor historical success in football, and their longtime travel partner and future Mountain West Conference member, UTEP, is in the same media footprint and brings more to the conference in their eyes. However, I believe that despite these disadvantages, the addition of New Mexico State would bring enough value through the historical rivalries with UTEP, as well as the University of New Mexico, to balance out the market overlap drawback. Additionally, they bring historical success in other revenue-generating sports. In men's basketball, the Aggies have had 26 all-time NCAA tournament appearances, 10 of those being since 2007, and most recently in 2022, losing in the second round to 4th-seeded Arkansas after a win over 5th-seeded UConn. In women's basketball, they've had multiple conference championships and 6 all-time March Madness appearances, 4 of them coming since 2015, and most recently in 2019. In baseball, they've had multiple conference championships, once again, and 5 NCAA tournament appearances, all since 2002, and most recently in 2022. These results are impressive and difficult to ignore in my mind. That being said, there are rumors that the University of New Mexico is opposed to the addition of New Mexico State due to some historical bad blood. I'm less knowledgeable on that front, but from what I've been able to gather, this is not an insurmountable peak. I'm sure they wouldn't be thrilled about it, but if this was the will of the conference that they would be added, it would happen. I hold a firm stance that with the quote-unquote halo effect that the Mountain West has been talking about, and a much higher media rights distribution than they currently get, the influx of money coming into the school would spur growth and investment in the athletics program, making them a competitive and additive member of the conference. The next school on my list of additions for the Mountain West would be California State University, Sacramento, otherwise known as Sacramento State, as a football-only member. This one might seem a little controversial, but there is merit to how much hype they've been garnering in their quest for FBS membership. While the majority of the capital they've raised is in pledges, there is still a significant amount of money that is liquid cash. This has caused an increase in investment and resources towards athletics. Publicly, the SAC-12 committee, their group of local business owners and community leaders advocating for their advancement, had the goal of joining the Pac-12, marketing themselves as collegiate representatives of the capital of California, the 20th largest designated media area in the United States. However, it has become clear that their actual goal was just to get to FBS, whether that be the Pac-12, Mountain West, Conference USA, or even as an independent. It hasn't been all talk either. They've been walking the walk in other ways besides raising money. Firstly, they had a great run of success under former head coach Troy Taylor with Big Sky Conference football championships in 2019, 2021, and 2022, making the FCS playoffs every one of those years and culminating in the quarterfinal appearance in 2022, followed up by another second-round appearance in 2023. Additionally, they made big hires in the revenue sports. Brendan Marion, the former offensive coordinator at UNLV, as the new head football coach, former NBA star Mike Bibby as the new head men's basketball coach, and even Shaquille O'Neal, who needs no introduction, as the men's basketball general manager. The Hornets also upped their recruiting to become one of the top recruiters in the FCS, and released building plans to improve the level of their facilities. Most importantly, they've taken tangible action steps towards their goal of becoming an FBS school. They declared their departure from the Big Sky Conference to head to the Big West Conference, a non-football league, in order to provide mobility to their football program, and subsequently applied for a waiver to move their football up to FBS with the intention of operating as an independent. This waiver was eventually denied, but that does not overrate the intention, especially since they've already stated they're not going to stop trying. As for membership in the Mountain West, the argument against them is that UC Davis, who falls in the same geographic footprint, has already been added to the conference. However, they have only been added, at least to this point, as a non-football member. As a football-only member, Sac State would complement UC Davis in their non-football status. Supposedly, UC Davis has targeted 2028 as the year when they will elevate their football program to FBS. This will give them time to grow their program and upgrade their facilities, the plans for which, at least for their football stadium, have already been laid out. That timeline seems just right for Sac State to add their Olympic sports to the conference as well, as they really need more time to improve the level of those facilities. When that happens, the conference will gain a strong regional rivalry and two schools elevated to their true potential in all aspects. The next addition to discuss is another football-only member, and an extremely popular one at that. If you haven't guessed already, it's none other than North Dakota State University of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. This addition is almost a no-brainer, but it didn't used to be, and I'll get to that in a second. The Bison of NDSU have won 10 of the last 14 FCS national championships. This level of sustained, consistent success across multiple different coaching regimes has never been seen at any level of football. They also have a history of punching up above their weight class and beating FBS schools. From 2010 to 2014, they went undefeated against FBS teams. All but one of those were against Power 5 programs, that exception being Colorado State in 2012. They also did some giant killing in 2016, beating number 13 Iowa. With recent historical success of this magnitude, they've shown that they're where they need to be in order to perform at the FBS level. The Mountain West is a perfect fit for them as they represent a home at the next step in the upper echelons of the G5, among the likes of the Sun Belt and even the American. Their facilities are also on par with this level of competition. Their stadium, the Fargo Dome, isn't the largest, but at 18,700, the capacity would not be the lowest in the conference. It'd find itself above the 16,000-seat temporary stadium at Hawaii, recently announced to be replaced in 2029 with the new Aloha Stadium, which is great news for them, and in similar company to the recently downsized 18,265-seat CEFCU Stadium at San Jose State. From what I've seen, they'll have no problems filling that stadium, and when it's packed, the Fargo Dome can rival the atmosphere of some 30,000-seat stadiums. As for value, besides being a nationally recognized brand with a reputation for championships and NFL draft picks, they bring a portion of the Minneapolis DMA, as that is where many of their students come from and where most of their alumni base resides. The obstacles for this program mainly revolved around two elements. Firstly, location. Second, why would they leave if they're winning? To address the first concern, everyone in high-level football can afford to travel long distances by charter air. Also, they already have a travel partner in Northern Illinois. Yes, the drive time is 9 hours, and the distance between them is almost 600 miles, but they're in the same geographic region, generally, and bring another slot in the central time zone, which is something the Mountain West has expressed they're looking for. Addressing the second concern is trickier, as it's hard to speak for a program I'm not a part of. However, from what I've seen, fans seem almost bored. It's not a bad thing, but they're clearly suffering from success a little bit. The NDSU football program has achieved all that there is to achieve at the FCS level, and it seems like most fans and administrators of the program are ready to move on to a new challenge. The last school to discuss as an addition is St. Mary's College of California of the West Coast Conference as an Olympic sports member. They don't have a football program, so that's their full capacity, similar to GCU, though that's about where the similarities end. They are a strong national basketball brand that could be a perfect fit within the Mountain West. Many have touted them as a potential addition to the Pac-12, but they don't quite fit that profile as the other schools in the Pac share. They are a private institution with a student population of just over 2,700, about 2,000 undergrad and 700 grad students, give or take. This is reflected in the level and size of their facilities, primarily their basketball arena that can only seat 3,500 people. Almost all of the Pac-12 schools are public land-grant universities. The only school in the conference that isn't a state school is Gonzaga, the only current non-football school in the conference. However, unlike St. Mary's, their enrollment is up near 7,300, about 5,100 undergrad and 2,200 grad students, give or take. And their facilities are visibly well-funded. The Mountain West is likely to be far less picky. While they're certainly going to be depleted by the departure of their top 5 brands at the end of this year, they still have some strong basketball brands left over, namely the University of New Mexico. The University of Nevada at Reno and Las Vegas also have had some historical success in basketball, and more recently Grand Canyon has been strong. The addition of a perennial NCAA tournament team in St. Mary's would boost the league to be a consistent 2-bid league with the ability to challenge for a 3rd bid year over year. To add some context to that, St. Mary's has been to March Madness 14 times since 1959. 4 of those appearances have come in the last 4 years. Unfortunately, their women's team has enjoyed none of that success, seeing no tournament appearances in their history, so that would have to be an area of improvement going forward. They have had a strong baseball program in recent years, with NCAA playoff appearances in 2016 and 2025, which is a nice plus as college baseball viewership continues to grow. All in all, if the opportunity presented itself, there would be no reason for the Mountain West not to pounce on adding this school. That concludes my list of additions for the Mountain West, at least if it was me. There are some other additions that have been thrown out there that I didn't include that I have a feeling I'll get torn apart for not talking about. The main one is Tarleton State. JY and Steve from the Big Mountain in particular would probably have words for me if I didn't briefly touch on Tarleton State. They are currently members of the Western Athletic Conference, soon to be the United Athletic Conference, and play in football in the UAC. They are part of the Texas A&M system and as such are well funded, which shows in their level of investment and quality of athletic facilities. They performed well in football in recent years, but many often forget what a big jump to FCS to FBS can be. Looking at fit and feasibility, I honestly don't see them as a great addition to the Mountain West. The conference is already in Texas with the addition of UTEP, so they don't urgently need more Texas. Also, Tarleton would very clearly be on a geographic island from the rest of the Mountain West. This would make travel expensive, and unlike the Pac-12, the Mountain West doesn't look like it's going to be able to deliver the paycheck that they would need to cover all of that, requiring a higher level of investment and leading to less funds being able to get to the football team to be able to compete in an upper G5 league like the Mountain West. In my mind, the most logical move for Tarleton would be Conference USA. Being a lower-level G5 conference, CUSA would not present as large of a jump for Tarleton. This would allow them to be able to compete and elevate themselves much more naturally, as well as quickly and efficiently, in my opinion. They would also find themselves with a geographic rival and travel partner in Sam Houston State University. They used to play together in the D2 Lone Star Conference in the 80s, and more recently for a couple of years in the WAC, starting in 2021, which was critically a year after Tarleton moved up to D1 from D2. So the rivalry, called the Battle of the Bearcats and Texans, is already there. Also important to note is the fact that Sam Houston rejected an offer from the Mountain West earlier this past year for many of the same reasons that I just stated for Tarleton. Going back to potential additions not on my list, there are some other teams in the FCS like Montana Schools and the rest of the Dakotas, but given how small the markets they bring are, unlike Sacramento State, they just haven't had the same amount of success to establish themselves as national brands, or have the sufficient funding quite like NDSU has. This isn't to say that they couldn't make it happen, but I don't think they'd be able to experience the same level of success or bring the same value as NDSU or Sac State. And with that, I think I'll bring this video to a close. You have my list. I'm sure there's already people telling me I'm wrong, but that's okay. If you haven't yet, but you want to, now's your chance. Don't worry, I can take criticism, though it would be cool if you guys could be nice, or at the very least constructive. While you're at it, I'd greatly appreciate it if you liked the video. It helps with the algorithm, and given that I've been out of the game for so long, I could use the boost. Seriously though, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I've got some other stuff coming soon, and I mean it this time, so stay tuned. I'm super pumped for the start of the season, which, man, got off to a great start in week 0, and I hope you guys are excited too. College football is awesome, and I'm so glad I get to share this space with all of you. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and be well.